So I'm here today with Matt, who's one of our ministers in Swansea. Matt, it's great to be with you this morning. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and where you minister?
Sure. It's good to see you, Hayley. It's good to be here. My name's Matt Carter. I'm married to Christina. I've been in ministry 25 years at Pantygwydr Baptost Church in Swansea. Started here in August last year, so August 2019.
That's brilliant. So where were you before? How did you end up here?
How did I end up here? I often wonder. Before that I was 18 years in Hastings, and before that I was 7 years in Luton.
Fantastic. So what called you to South Wales? Apart from God alone, how was that process?
Actually, the process was strange. I wasn't specifically feeling a call to Wales or to anywhere, but I was at a point in my ministry where I was thinking, do we stay where we are until I retire, which would be another 14 years? Did I have the right to put my poor congregation in Hastings through 30 years of my ministry? So we sort of explored different possibilities, different options, and one of them was to put our name on the list. And to be honest, we'd gone through that for a few months, and I more or less decided to take my name off and to stay where I was. And literally the last call that came through was from the folk here at Pantygwydr, and they sort of said, would I be prepared to come to Wales? I'm prepared to go anywhere and explore what God's got to say. And so we came, and it was just such a natural fit. We enjoyed the experience of being here and the people, and it just felt right. And that's quite awkward as a minister, because if you think you're going to the right place, it's the church that makes the decision. But God spoke to them or through them or somehow, but here I am.
That's brilliant. And over your years in ministry, where have you seen God really move in regard to mission?
All of our significant growth has come through relationships, through relationship building. I've been involved in all sorts of mission events and programs, and they're useful as tools, but they're not the answer overall. And everything I've done has where we've seen churches and congregations grow, maintain their numbers even, is through the relationships that we've built. And that's a long-term, ongoing process. Sometimes it takes a few months, if you're lucky. I shouldn't say if you're lucky, I suppose. If you're blessed. But equally, I have folk who have soon come to faith and have baptized them after 10 years. And so sometimes these things take time, but that's where we see growth. That's where I see mission work.
Brilliant. And how would you kind of define mission if you had to?
Oh, do I have to? Well, I suppose, you could be glib and say, well, it's doing what Jesus told you to do, which is to go into all the world and make disciples. And so that's the sort of overarching banner, if you like. But where would I see mission? I think, how would I define mission? I think it's got to be, I don't know. I can't think of the words to put it. What was the question again? Just
how would you define it from your experience, I guess?
Yeah, I think, to me, mission is so much part of my life, I suppose. It's what I feel God's called me to, and to encourage others to do it. So to actually find a snappy definition, I probably would have to steal someone else's. And something like the Campus Crusader, know Christ to make Christ known, or something like that. But actually, when it comes to what it is for me, it's basically sharing my faith and telling people why I do what I do. So if it's caring for people, it's because that's what Jesus would do. That's what it is.
That's brilliant. That's a great definition. It's always hard, isn't it, when you think, oh, I need to define this. Sometimes mission is so simple, it should just be natural from who we are as disciples of Jesus.
Yes.
And how have you found kind of communicating that to a congregation?
Well, I think when you're talking to a congregation, you've got to encourage them. One of the things you can't do is tell people what to do, because they'll either, those that like you will do it, those that don't will have 100 reasons why they shouldn't. But if you can encourage people, and if you can show them why this is what you should do, or this is why Jesus told us to do it this way, or, and also demonstrate it, model it, so that other people can see it's not so difficult. I mean, one of the problems we have, I think, as ministers, is that we are seen as the professionals. You know, that we went to Bible college, therefore we should know how to do this. If only they'd been at Bible college with us, because I don't know about you, but this was not something we were specifically taught. This is something that, you know, we grow into, we get involved with. The disciples weren't ready-made packages, neither are we.
Yeah, and so as we're not ready-made packages, I don't know about you, you may be a far better minister than I am, but I've made a few mistakes along the way, and there's been some challenges. And I wonder, what for you have been the biggest challenges in your ministry?
Overall, I think the churches I've worked in, the congregations I've worked with have been fabulous. And which is always a prelude to saying something bad, isn't it? Which isn't the case in this time. But one of the things I think we all struggle with, and I would too, is tradition, and basically not sort of maybe Baptist tradition, but you know, the things that we've grown up with, which we feel comfortable with, and that's how we do it. Therefore, that's the way we do it. And sometimes letting go of that. Sometimes you have a community that's very happy with itself, very comfortable with the people that meet each week. And they don't want to lose that, and I can so understand that. But at the same time, we're called to look out, and we're called to reach out to those other people who would just, you know, would enrich us so much if they were part of what was going on, and if Jesus was in their life. So probably the biggest challenge I faced or have faced is people saying, well, we don't want to move on, we're happy where we are. And it's almost like waiting for God to turn up, which can be a dreadfully dull experience, I find. Yeah,
absolutely. And those times can be very draining when you're working with the church through that transition. So what keeps you motivated? What excites you in ministry?
Seeing people's lives change. That's the most rewarding thing, whether it's someone who's exploring their faith for the first time, someone who's perhaps grown up in a Christian family, been part of the church all their life, and suddenly they start to see things in a new way. That's always really exciting. And they start to actually realize the potential that they have in Christ. I mean, that's phenomenal. When you see people go out and get involved in mission beyond the church, so with other organizations or train for the ministry or things like that, that's just so rewarding.
Yeah, it is. And we are currently filming this when we're in lockdown, especially in Wales. England's got a little bit more freedom. But as ministers, as churches, that gives us an opportunity to look at what we've been doing and evaluate what we've had to place down. And I'm using this time personally as us seeking God to go, God, what do I need to pick back up? And I wonder for you, what do you feel God's saying to you and your church at this time?
Yeah. I think the lockdown has come at a really interesting time for us as churches across Wales or across the country. In the months leading up to it, we were praying. Church leaders were getting together and praying for revival and praying for God to move in a mighty way. I don't think anyone expected anything like this coming along. And in many ways, you'd think, well, that's crushed everything down and everything's stopped. But I even think, the timing through the year, this lockdown happened just a few weeks before Easter. And if we look at that, it's a story of immense hope, obviously. But also, if you look at the disciples, the way they behaved, they locked themselves away for fear of the authorities. And it was, Jesus coming to them and speaking to them. And it just struck me that, have we locked ourselves away as churches behind our church doors, behind our programs and our events and all of these things? Because it's easy to, support other people doing an alpha course or support other people as they do the toddler group or whatever activity we talk about. And people never know whether we're Christians or not, because we drive past 3 or 4 churches to go to the church that we prefer. And now with the lockdown, it's changed everything. It's all become neighbourhood focused. It's all become for folk in the congregation, for all of us, I think it's challenged. What do we actually believe? Do we go to church? Is being a Christian going to church on Sunday, or is it actually speaking to our neighbour and talking to them when they're explaining their concerns and telling their woes and what can they do? And you've got an answer. So, yeah.
I think you're right, and it always upsets me at the moment when I'm seeing on Twitter and other social media platforms, people go, the church is closed. I'm like, no, our chapels have closed, but the church is still very much alive
Yes.
because of who Christ is in us.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing to reflect on. Thank you. And I wonder, if you were to go back to yourself just before your ordination and give yourself a bit of advice that you've gathered over the years that you wish you knew back then, what would it be?
My ordination. I've got to think back 25 years. I think there's someone 25 years ago who was raring to go, who was just delighted to have got through college before Jesus came back. I think now, looking back at it, I'd sort of say to him, take your time, don't rush into things, because you've got plenty of time. Perhaps that sounds strange, but I think we come at things with our latest, greatest ideas so fast that we sometimes don't appreciate. And this is the balance you have with to strike and to get right. We don't appreciate that there is a tradition, there is a way people do things, and to rip things away from under them. It may leave them standing, or it may leave them falling over, tottering certainly. But get alongside people and encourage them into the direction you see them going. That's what you see God leading you. That's what I would say.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And how can we, as an association, as a body of 140 churches, support you and your church?
Right. Okay. And that's an interesting one, because I think geography plays a particular problem. I think geography plays a problem in every association. It certainly did in East Sussex. The roads in East Sussex are dreadful. It takes you an hour to get anywhere, from Hastings anyway. I think communication is obviously the big issue across all these areas, and particularly in South Wales. Perhaps one of the advantages, or one of the benefits that's come out of the lockdown, is that we're using systems like this to communicate. And so being able to, I would hope that after everything goes back to whatever normal is going to be, something like this will be still useful and electronically a lot more effectively than we have been. So communication is good. I mean, the way that the South Wales associations put their website together and this sort of channeling the sort of information that's coming from DigCon, things like it's been brilliant, and that's been really useful. I think probably for us in Swansea, I think there is, if we're honest, there is a feeling, whether it's true or not, I'm still not convinced, but that everything happens in Cardiff and nothing happens anywhere else, and or at least people outside of Cardiff are looking at Cardiff and thinking, "Oh, I wish we had that." I'm not sure how relevant that is, but actually to build things more regionally, more locally, and have centres across the sort of the area would be good. But I think it's keeping those communication lines open and keeping conversations going. That's probably the best thing we can do together.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Matt. It's been great to hear some of your story and how God is moving in you and your church's life. And we'll be praying for you in your ministry in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you.
We pray for you too.